All right, today we're going to talk about something that can be a total game changer for navigating our busy, noisy, and sometimes overwhelming world. We are going to demystify the sensory circuit.
So let me ask you something. You ever have one of those days where every little sound just grates on your nerves? Or maybe the opposite. You feel kind of sluggish, in a fog, and you just can't get your brain to focus? Well, that's your sensory system talking, and it's something we can learn to work with.
So what can we do about it? How do we manage those feelings? Well, that's where this really cool concept called a sensory circuit comes into play. Think of it as a proactive way to give our brains exactly what they need to find that just right feeling.
So, what is it exactly? A sensory circuit is basically a structured, personalized routine of activities. The whole point is to give your nervous system the specific sensory input it's craving to help you regulate, whether that means waking you up or helping you calm down.
Now, you might have heard of this concept by other names, like a sensory integration plan. My favorite, though, is a sensory diet. And that's such a perfect way to think about it, right? Just like you need a balanced diet of food, your brain needs a balanced diet of sensory experiences throughout the day to function at its best.
And the best part? It's actually pretty simple. A sensory circuit is built on 3 key phases, and each one has a very clear job to do. So let's break it down.
First up, we have the alerting phase. You can think of this as the ignition switch for your brain. It's all about shaking off that sluggish feeling and getting the engine running, ready for whatever's next.
Yeah, the specific goal here is to, quote, increase arousal levels and promote a state of heightened alertness and focus. This is what you turn to when you're feeling a little foggy. These activities often tap into our sense of body awareness, which is just incredibly good at waking up the brain.
So what does this actually look like? Well, we're talking short, energetic bursts of movement. For kids, it could be super fun things like frog jumps or bunny hops. For us adults, it could be as simple as doing a few jumping jacks, a quick walk up and down the stairs, or even some wall push-ups at your desk.
Okay, so you've got all this great energy now. But that energy needs some direction, right? So, right after we alert the system, we move into the next phase, organizing. This is where we bring in focus and structure.
The whole purpose of this phase is to provide a structured task that helps sharpen your focus and attention. You're basically challenging the brain to do something that requires concentration, which helps channel all that new energy and leaves you feeling more put together and ready to work.
A classic example here is something like playing with Play-Doh. But really, any activity that requires concentration and uses your hands can work wonders. Things like threading beads, or for an adult, maybe kneading some dough, or even just tackling a jigsaw puzzle. They all help the brain filter out distractions.
Some other really great examples are tasks that make you aware of your body, like balancing on one foot or activities where you have to sort objects by how they feel. What these all have in common is they force your brain to slow down and really pay attention to the details, which is amazing for improving focus.
And that brings us to our third and final phase, calming. So, after we've woken up the nervous system and given it a job to do, the goal now is to bring everything back down to a state of calm, focused readiness.
Exactly. The goal here is to create an experience that helps you relax, lets go of any stress, and just creates an overall sense of calm. This leaves you feeling regulated and ready for whatever is next, whether that's a big meeting or just winding down for bed.
Visually soothing activities can be incredible for this, Something as simple as just watching the slow, predictable blobs in a lava lamp can have a huge impact on anxiety. It just gives the brain something simple and non-threatening to focus on.
And of course, anything that promotes mindfulness is perfect here. We're talking about mindful coloring, some gentle yoga poses, but it could also be deep pressure from a weighted blanket, or even just popping on some noise-canceling headphones and listening to some quiet music.
Okay, so you know the 3 phases. But how do you actually put a sensory circuit together? It's definitely not about just randomly picking activities. It's a really deliberate and thoughtful process.
It really boils down to 4 key steps. First, you have to assess. You've got to understand what a person's unique sensory needs are. What do they seek out? What do they avoid? Second, you identify a clear goal. What are we trying to achieve right now? Alertness? Calm? Then, step 3 is where you select the right activities to meet that goal. And finally, and this one is so important, you have to monitor and adjust. You watch how things go, and you tweak the circuit as you need to, because what our brains need can change from day to day.
So let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture here. Why go through all this trouble? What is the real, ultimate goal of a sensory circuit?
And here it is. The real power of a sensory circuit isn't just about feeling better in the moment.
It's about teaching us to recognize what our bodies and our brains need, and then empowering us with the tools to meet those needs ourselves. It's about developing the absolutely crucial life skill of self-regulation.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought. Knowing all this, how can we all start to think a little differently about our own environments? Our homes, our schools, our workplaces. How can we create spaces that are more sensory aware and supportive for everyone?